I've been doing little experiments with audio recordings for a number of years now, and some of these experiments involve manipulating the way that you hear the sound, slowing it down, altering the pitch, adding various effects to the audio. And so it was from the work that I've been doing with audio that led me into working with video. And I wanted to see if there's any parallels in manipulating the video image in the same way that I try to do with audio recordings. One of the crucial differences between working with video and audio is that with audio, you can allow your mind to create an image, whereas when you're looking at an actual image, the challenge then becomes, how do you keep this visually interesting? I filmed everybody for 2 minutes. Everybody got 2 minutes in front of the camera. Some of the footage was slowed down to 10 or 11 minutes, and I extracted little segments from the footage, the bits that I thought looked visually interesting, and I discovered I was able to slow down some of those 2-minute segments to as long as 3 to 3.5 hours. And with some of the resulting images that I produced, it does appear that you're looking at a very, very slowly evolving photograph. It's like a time-lapse image in reverse. Instead of things being speeded up to allow you to see some kind of detail, things are slowed down to an extreme, and it allows you to focus on certain elements of the subject as they're staring into the camera and as you see their face evolving very, very slowly. Working with time in this way is something that fascinates me greatly, and is an area that I think I'm going to continue to explore. Ultimately, I decided that it was as interesting to leave the imperfections and flaws in the images as it would be to have them pristine and perfect with very, very graceful, uninterrupted movement. So when you see the finger moving in a jagged kind of way across the screen, it's there intentionally. I chose to do the portraits in black and white because I think it conveys a certain purity of the image. If you can get multiple people involved in a project like this and you've got many subjects, it leads to a kind of democratization of the image where everybody is equal. Everybody had 2 minutes in front of the camera. Everybody had the same background, everybody was in black and white, everybody was lit the same. Yet it still gives an opportunity for the individual person to convey something that's specific to themselves. I've got so used to seeing the portraits in slow motion, and when I see them again now in real time, in color, with the original audio, it's almost as much of a special effect as it was originally for me when I first started to see them in slow motion. But to see them in real time, it looks strange now.
That was easy.
When I first started to think about making portrait videos in this kind of experimental mode, I was looking for anybody who would be willing to work with me and allow me to film them, to sit in front of my camera and just be themselves, basically. it's obvious that there's a little community of people that have been captured here, and a little community of people at a particular time, which will never be the same again. It's kind of frozen in time. There's parallel with the Andy Warhol screen tests, where he filmed all of these people in the 1960s, some of them who were relatively unknown at the time, but went on to become famous and iconic people. It'll be interesting to see whether or not some of the people that are in this collection, whether they become immortalized in some way. Not because of my videos, but because of something that they do. Maybe this will be part of their history, part of an archive in the future. When we were asking for people to come along and participate with this, we were directly alluding to Andy Warhol. And I think maybe a lot of people were interested in this because they saw the parallel with Andy Warhol maybe more than I did. And I think some people's perceptions of the whole screen test thing and the thing about capturing these soon-to-be starlets, if you like, it's kind of tweaked to kind of a romanticism within certain people, which is related again to this whole mystique of Andy Warhol. And again, it's interesting that it's like, from my point of view, at least at the beginning, I was totally oblivious to that.
How did you approach those moments when somebody would come in and face that orange chair with those crazy bright lights?
The initial thing that I tried to do when people came in to sit in front of the camera was to try to make them feel as comfortable as possible, explaining the process to them, that they would be sitting there for 2 minutes, that I would be filming them, I'd be using a stopwatch to time the 2 minutes, that they could ask me to stop at any time that they wanted me to, and that I just wanted them to interact with the camera in a way that was comfortable for them and allowed them to be themselves. I don't think it's a particularly easy thing for some people to sit in front of the camera and to continue to have to be themselves for an extended period. Once you get beyond that initial snapshot moment, after you make an initial pose, you have to think, well, what am I going to do now to fill in this time, this 2 minutes? How can I continue to be myself? Some people seem to find it easier than others, but some, I think, struggled with it. 90 people sat in front of my camera between June and November last year, and I only got to meet the majority of them for the 2 minutes that they were in front of the camera. And yet, I feel as though I've got to know a lot of these people fairly intimately as a result of looking at the images and scrutinizing their faces and movements. It's just been an interesting, informative process for me too. One or two people commented about when they look at themselves and they see asymmetrical movements of their eyes, for example, that they find it a little bit disturbing when they see themselves in this slow motion mode. And obviously, having the ability to see your face in slow motion in this way, it allows you to scrutinize yourself in a way that's not possible normally. I think the initial round of portraits, people, generally speaking, were much more stoic and much more kind of almost focused on the whole thing about staring down Andy and staring into the camera. The second round of portraits at the Film Bar in November, there seemed to be a lot more people who wanted to express themselves through some kind of little vignette of a performance.
Bola shalakada, hola bakla shaklada, hola
What did you think of your portrait? What was your reaction to when you saw yourself in this mode?
I felt like I was very close to like bursting out laughing and crying and all of it while I was being filmed. And I don't think the actual video fully conveyed how close to the brink I felt, which I wonder then throughout the rest of my life, now that I've seen that, if I'm not projecting as much as I think I am. And it definitely raises questions of self-awareness of it when you...
We've also created this little box set of the portraits, and when I think of the pathway that we've taken to make these images, and the hours and hours that have gone into making them, to filming them, to processing them, to uploading them onto YouTube, to making them available, and we've kind of boiled it down to this little box set of 90 images, which are like 3.5 inch square. And it's the effort that's gone into kind of making these images into this box set, and this is only one aspect of it, of course. But it is interesting that all of this work has resulted in has resulted in this little box set of images, which are snapshots, which is kind of ironic. It's funny in a way. Everybody has got a face. It's a universal thing, and so there is that commonality there, but obviously everybody's face is individual. Everybody's face is kind of beautiful. If you look at these videos for any length of time, you actually see that very clearly. I don't think there's anybody who has not got an interesting face. Everybody's got an interesting face.